Hi, Rob Fleming here. How are you? Still in the Philippines? I'm staying. Anyway, I want to do a quick video just to discuss the situation or the nature of masculine homosexual men and also feminine homosexual women. We normally have been talking here about something that we might call transgender homosexuality. And transgender homosexuals, if they're male, have female sexuality, and if they're female, they have male sexuality. So they have the sexuality of the opposite sex. And that's why we call it transgender. I don't really like the word transgender, but that's actually the word that's been used in the literature before. It was used originally by, I believe, Magnus Hirschfeld when he described it. And it's very easy to see how, talking about males here, how transgender homosexuals go from kind of just a little bit gender non-conforming right the way through to fully HSTS, and some of the most beautiful women in the world, and they are stunning. They're just stunning. And it tends to be associated, as we've discussed before, it tends to be associated with a number of body differences, a clustering of body differences, such as they tend to be quite small, they tend to be lightly built for their height, they often have very distinctive voices, very feminine mannerisms, which are quite natural. They can't really do anything else but be feminine. They tend towards neoteny. That is the kind of pretty face, pretty boy face. Again, the inverse is true of females. That's lesbians. And there you'll see this kind of scale of variation that goes from just a little bit gender non-conforming right the way through to basically full trans men. So that's that. That's really the transgender type. Now, when people are talking about masculine homosexuals, they're talking about something completely different. And in a way, it's not really homosexual. Well, it is and it isn't, If we take homosexuality to mean attraction to same sex, then yes, absolutely. But this type is completely different. And I call it narcissistic homosexuality. I think one of the first people who described it accurately was a guy called Benedict Friedlander, who was originally an associate of Magnus Hirschfeld. Magnus Hirschfeld being himself a transgender homosexual. He was anti-Maggie in Berlin, and he was, surrounded by other of his own type, of the transgender homosexual type. Friedlander was completely different. He was an extremely masculine man. And it was all about manliness and all that sort of stuff. It was very aggressively masculine. And he completely rejected the idea that his sexual interest in other men was anything to do with femininity. And of course he was right to do that, because it wasn't. They're just not interested. They're not themselves feminine. What's actually happening here to explain this otherwise somewhat strange concept is these people actually have an ETLE, right? This is narcissism. They're focused on a sexual target that is actually within themselves, right? So they are the sexual apple of their own eyes. They are absolutely in love with themselves, and they seek in sexual partners the mirror of themselves. They look to find a partner who looks like they do, who acts like they do, who sounds like they do. And if you look around, I'll put some pictures up on my site in here, you'll see homosexual couples where they just look like one guy, and you put a mirror down and you're seeing the reflection. They're just so alike. In the old days, that would have been in the 80s, they would have all had mustaches and white t-shirts and blue jeans, pack of cigarettes rolled up in the sleeve, depended on which way you were going to top or bottom today, that sort of thing. Now everybody wears beards, so you find these immaculately trimmed beard, and they all look exactly the same. It doesn't happen to me so much now here because I live in Angeles, and you don't see that many of that kind of gay around here. If you go to a place like Puerto Princesa or Mindoro, that's where they go. The macho gay, they're called macho gays here, and a lot of the transgender gays rather, they kind of don't trust them. They don't like them. They think they cause trouble because they're very aggressive, they're very loud, very masculine. They're very very gung-ho, hoorah, in your face, that sort of thing. And yeah, they're a pain in the ass basically. But anyway, that's their thing. And it's not just you get those ones which are really the sort of the gym buff kings, they're super bodies, really into their body. I'm into my body, man, and all that sort of stuff. And then you'll get the ones who are like bears, like the guys who are old guys who are together, and you get in women you'll get the lipstick lesbian, and they look like they don't just look like sisters, they look like twins, you know. And you say, well, which one's which, you know? And they're so alike. Now this is all the same form of homosexualism. It's called narcissistic homosexualism, and it's the result of an ETLE in which the erotic target is inside the self. But because these people are homosexual, unlike our famous well-known AGPs, these people are homosexual, so it's okay for them to find those features that they find in themselves desirable in another. You know, it doesn't trick off their homophobia in exactly the way that it does with more non-homosexual transvestites that we're so much more used to dealing with. So I want to just make that point clear. There are two different types of homosexuality. Normally I talk about transsexualism, but I'm just working on a couple of articles here, and you know, this has been brought up, and it's been brought up in comments, and I thought I'd really have to address it. When you're looking at the really masculine clone gay types, they're not the same as the transgender gays. They're just not the same. The transgenders are on a scale of etiology. There's developmental scale. They go from, you know, a little bit gender non-conforming right through to the most beautiful, glamorous women you could possibly imagine ever meeting, and they're stunning. They are utterly stunning. And I mean, you know my girlfriend. I take her out, and everybody just goes, "Wow," you know, and that's not uncommon. Sam is beautiful, but you know, I love her because she's Sam and she's great fun, and there's loads of stuff about Sam that you've no idea how good she is. But by the same token, she's not particularly unusual. I mean, you go up somewhere like Walking Street here in Angeles, and I would say that a good half of the best looking women on the street are all ladyboys. That's trans women. You know, they're that good looking. Most of the ordinary girls can't hold a candle. They just can't. They're just not that good looking. And the ladyboys are stunning. They're just bang, they're just gorgeous. So that's what you get. But you will also see, curiously enough, you'll also see the much more sort of gender non-conforming, not really masculine, but femboy type, more boy than girl, if you know what I mean. So that's that. So that's two different types of homosexuality, and it applies both in men and women. So I just want to say thank you all for your support. I really appreciate it. It takes me a long time to do these videos, so please like and share, and most of all subscribe, and tell your friends, subscribe. I honestly believe that what I'm doing is something that somebody needs to do. And the reason I say that is because I believe that HSTS are under attack. And I don't think they realise yet just how serious this attack is going to be. We're going to see a backlash against the kind of hasty and ill-considered interventions that have been taking place on young girls with this thing that is called ROGD. Now, it's not even a gender dysphoria. It's a kind of body dysmorphia mixed with peer pressure. It's not really gender dysphoria at all, because all gender dysphoria is sexual in nature. It's all based on sexuality, right? No other way around that one. These people don't actually have gender dysphoria. They're being persuaded that they do. They're being fast-tracked onto hormones and irreversible surgeries, and it is going to come back and bite everybody in the ass. And what concerns me is that, once again, I fear that HSTS will be on the receiving end. I mean, you've got people like Ken Zucker, who was let's get rid of the Barbies guy. He's becoming more acceptable again after having been... I didn't like the way he was dealt with, by the way. I thought that was totally wrong. At the same time, he was wrong. You know, what he was doing, his reparative therapies were wrong, and they should have been stopped. I just thought that the way that he was attacked, it was a fabricated case was made against him. Go and read about it, or I'll do a piece about it. And it was wrong. It was just wrong. Nobody should be treated like that. But he's wrong in terms of what he was saying. And he's back. You know, everybody, Ken Zucker, da-da-dee-da. That man will do everything he absolutely can to stop any HSTS transitioning. And the fact is that people have to understand this. For a transgender homosexual, male and female, but for a transgender homosexual male, transition is a natural endpoint. It's a logical conclusion to the process, right? If you're good looking enough and you can carry it away, go for it. And they should be encouraged. The fact is that we can tell by the time a child reaches puberty. You can't tell before puberty. But by the time a child is a year into puberty, say, you know whether that's going to be an HSTS or just a conventional transgender homosexual who kind of looks like a boy, and it's obvious. We'll know if they persist in the strong cross-dressing behaviour and the cross-sex identification, then that's HSTS, and you shouldn't be stopping them. You should be saying, okay, fine, we'll hit you with the puberty blockers, and we'll look at the hormones, at the age of 16, which is normal and reasonable approach to take. Some people, and I'm very dubious of their motives, are basically suggesting that we should go to a blanket let's not do anybody approach, and the ones who will suffer from that are HSTS. HSTS have a limited window of opportunity during which time they can transition convincingly, right? Almost no HSTS can transition after the age of 23 and get away with it. Now, what's happening here, I believe, is a conservative move to say, right, let's just stop them all doing that, then the problem will go away. But I'll tell you something. I live in a country where the problem doesn't go away. And what people are going to find is that if they start refusing treatment to HSTS on the grounds of some backlash against so-called ROG or DD or whatever, the kids will go to the black market. That's what they'll do. They will not stop. They'll get their hormones on the black market. They'll go to Thailand for their surgeries, right? So get it through your heads, guys. These kids now have access to the internet. They know what's going on. They've got social media. They can see sites like mine. They can see other sites. They can say, wait a minute, we're HSTS. And they can go for it. And you will not stop them. All you'll do is cause a great deal of pain. And I think that we need to stand up and tell these people, and we have to protect the HSTS. They've been victims of churches, social conservatives, quack psychologists, gay activists who absolutely hate them. Everybody is their enemy and they have no friends, no advocates. I'm trying to do that for them. I'm trying to just be the voice. I mean, I know there's others. But we need to stand up and say, look, whatever else happens with anything else, that's fine, we'll talk about it. But HSTS, you look after them. Don't be abusing the kids, right? Because that's what they're doing. That's where this is going to end up. This is turning into a nasty political row with, on one side, has-been doctors, some really vicious, nasty rabidfems, gay activists who really should have been locked up years ago on the one side, and they're all against the HSTS. All of them. And we're going to have to stop it. Somebody has to stand up for them. Anyway, please like, please subscribe, please, do what you can. I'll keep making these videos as long as I can. I've got a little bit of support. More is always helpful. I will try and organise ways of letting you do that. But please, we've got to support the HSTS. Take care.